All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2018 Cachalot Alumni Association Winter Gathering. We are here at our presentation this year to discuss the elephant in the room. It's not a fat joke. So, a little irony. Back in August, we were having a lot of discussions about Camp Cachalot and turning the building, which most of us here knew as the trading post and then as the handicraft lodge building, into the Cachalot Lodge as a usable space and a way to honor one of our past camps. And let's be honest, a camp that was sacrificed for Cachalot. Try to encourage those people into the organization because we want to honor that memory. We want to keep that history alive. We want to recognize that part of history in southeastern Massachusetts. And then I got a phone call. That was a little spooky and ironic. Let's make sure I'm going in the right direction here. So that leads us to this year. We actually had a long discussion before on should we have a program at all. Maybe people just like to get together and have lunch and talk, and we eventually decided we have to discuss the elephant in the room. So we will. And the big questions that people have. How did we get here? How did we get to this point where we're at? What do we have to do now? And really, what's the best things for us to do now? And then, what about the future? And really, what about summer camp? So today, I have a few goals here with this presentation. And one is to tell you facts as they've been provided to our association. Tell you some things that I believe are true. They may not be. And then, please keep in mind, it might seem a little rambling, but hopefully this all makes sense by the last slide. But it should all get tied together. This is in response to our justified emotional response of losing summer camp and our feelings of sharpening the pitchforks and lighting the torches, and we need to move past that because it's not going to be helpful. So we want to try to get through that emotional response and get to a productive response. To do that, we have to understand the reality of how we got here. So we understand the problem, which is the only way we can help address the problem. We can help address the problem. Help address the problem. And that way we can hopefully affect positive change. So how did we get here? We all know scouting membership is down. We get that. I'm not going to go into a big diatribe about it. We get it. We know Cachalot summer camp attendance has dropped over the years. We get it. So has every other camp. Something to remember is that Cachalot as a whole was not sustainable, profitable, and everyone thinks profit's a dirty word, and I agree with you, but it has to be sustainable, right? It can't cost you $5 to open the gate and only make $4 off of it, right? That's not sustainable. It was not working in a sustainable fashion back in the Moby Dick Council days. So if we want to go find the root of the problem, we need to look way back. And we're not pointing fingers at anyone back then either. So the other thing to remember is Narragansett Council has one big budget. Right? There's not a budget. They have line items, they have cost centers, but they have one big budget. And that Yahoo for a long time was the cash cow that was keeping many of the camping program profitable, sustainable. But our cash cow got a little sick too. So their attendance has also been declining. We were all given numbers. We were all given numbers when this happened, however many months ago. Must have been around October, I think, when this bomb dropped, right? Where all these numbers were provided. Well, some of us who like that stuff, we took those numbers and we started analyzing them ourselves. The numbers that we were provided in by the council. So we conducted our own analysis. This is a 4-year trailing average of the attendance of the camps. Now, this is something often that retail operations do because that Christmas quarter is often quite good. Makes your other quarters look terrible. So this sort of evens out that seasonality. Well, there's a seasonality here that happens in 4s with jamborees. So we analyzed it this way. And you go, well, look, Cachalot's doing fine. Sort of. They were doing very well. Look at that. They had an uptick in the latter part of that line. Notice the scales on the side. Much smaller. Cachalot's problem was not the line moving in a bad direction. It's just too darn small to be sustainable right now. That's what this was all about. Yagoo is still doing quite well. Those numbers have an extra 0 behind them, right? That's 5,000 at the bottom of that scale. But these people... Oh, no, this scale here, 5,800. So, they have a different problem. What they have going for them is, at 5,800, it's still sustainable. But it's not doing so well that it can help the other programs with their budget anymore. The council folks, they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. They see this. They understand we have to do something. Our money maker is heading in the wrong direction. So, what we have been told, these are the numbers that we were given, that to be at that sustainable level, we need 750 campers over a 5-week season. We could talk about the reasons for that, and some are within Boy Scouting's control, some are not, some are just reality. But that's what we need. Trouble is, right now, Cachalot can't handle 750 kids a week with the infrastructure we have, and never has, in its history, had 750 kids in 1 week of summer camp. In one season, excuse me, thank you. So, if we were to continue the way we were going, it would take us a very long time to hit 750 kids in a season. It would take us to approximately 2025, if nothing else were to change. And we could have a long discussion about that, about nothing else changing. But if everything stayed the same as of last summer, that's where we'd be. And given the numbers council provided us, we're pretty darn confident in that number. At the same time, Yagoo's facing a 1/3 drop. Remember, this was that extra pot of money. When we talked about cost $5 to open the gate, we're only making $4. This is where that extra dollar came from, because it's one big overarching program, one big overarching budget. 1/3 drop. Those of you who are familiar with that facility, they're going to be talking about some very hard decisions in the next few years as well. And I'll let you figure out what those little icons mean. So, we have been told Cachalot is not going to be sold. I believe this is true for now. So, we all talk about the conservation restriction. I hear all kinds of stuff about that. Let's clear up some misconceptions right now. No land was ever sold. There's no part of Cachalot that, when Moby Dick Council owned it, is now owned by somebody else, including the state forest. Every square inch that Moby Dick owned, Narragansett owns. That never happened. What was sold were some development rights, some construction rights, and the state purchased some public access to certain parts of the camp. And the ability to do some wildlife management on certain parts of the camp. That's it. We still own the property, we as a Narragansett Council. It can be sold. It can be sold. There's just an extra level or two of complexity in this. This, for people who are unfamiliar with it, is Camp Chesterfield. This was a camp, contrary to what some people are aware of. This was a camp that in just the past few years closed within 150 miles of here. It was in Chesterfield, Massachusetts. I know it pretty well. This had a conservation restriction very similar to the one we have, maybe even a bit stricter. Oh, its lake wasn't as nice as ours, but whose is? That was sold. That was sold to a youth program, which is what the conservation restriction says. The youth program decided, oh, I don't want it. Lady bought it sight unseen. She was in California. Decided she didn't want it, and now this outfit owns it. It's a live-action role-playing group. It's a private group, private business. It's not necessarily for youth. It's for adults. It's a private business. They used to rent the camp out for a couple weeks every summer, or a week, and run their program there. If you've been to King Richard's Fair, it's kind of like that. You play Dungeons and Dragons or Magic. It's live action. They go there and run their programs. So, yeah, it can be sold. It's a wonderful thing that we have it. It makes it harder, but it could still happen. So what must we do now? And that's what people want to know. What can I do? So here are our goals. That's it. It's all any of us want to do. We need a plan. How do we do that? So we protect it best by keeping it valuable to the scouting program. So this is where we need to pull back our torches and pitchfork feelings. I get it. Felt them. If you saw a presentation I gave to the alumni board several months ago, very different. How do we do that? We have a strategy. Our strategy has kind of 3 points. One, we need to protect the facilities and the property. We're going to do that, we're going to talk about that after, by working with the ranger, seeing the ranger. We have to mobilize all what we can do. Some people have capacity here, they have knowledge, they have know-how, they have time, and we're going to try to point you to the ranger so that she can manage what this property needs. She's the property manager. Remember, we don't own anything, right? We don't have the right to go out there and do anything. She's like, I don't have the right to go change something at your house. We will always go through the ranger. We have beaver days. Maybe it'll be a beaver weekend someday. We're all a little worried about, we've always had trouble with trespassers, and we're a little worried about that. The ranger has great ideas. We always go through the ranger. You have an idea, go through the ranger. Anyone here have access to Jersey barriers? Please see the ranger. None of us are security guards. None of us are there to kick anyone out. We're there to see the ranger and ask how we can help. The facility use, just using the facility, having scouts and scouters there, helps. Having eyes around, that helps deter trespassers. People don't want to do nefarious things where they have witnesses. And we'll come back to that point. Staying viable with increased usage. So we have a certain amount of usage at camp annually. We want to increase that. That quote-unquote off-season. I guess it's all off-season now. We have a Highland Games scheduled for April. We're going to see Kilted Kevin. He's here representing. He's going to be putting this together. Anyone who wants to help, I want you to see him after, please. Cub Olympics, is it happening at camp? Yes. It is happening at camp this summer. Outstanding. I believe the council is working with some folks on a Camp Luau this summer. Outstanding. And here's the part I want to make sure we get to. That's support from the council. Right? So going there and saying with pitchforks, that doesn't make them want to support us. They're having an event there. We're working on formulating for next fall probably, because we have Mass Jam coming up this fall, right? Next year? Oh, all right, so maybe it would be this fall. An emergency...
This October.
Okay. All right, so for the following year, an emergency preparedness weekend with maybe a zombie apocalypse sort of theme. That should be fairly popular. We want to have Cub Scout events. Those of you who have experience with Cub Scouts, that's the future Scouts, right? The Cub Scouts are the future Boy Scouts. We want to have Cub Scouts there. I know I fell in love with the place when I was a Cub Scout. We want to expand the options for use. One of the ideas we kick around is the duplex. Moving into more co-ed scouting, the duplex is uniquely suited to that kind of program or that kind of unit, right? It's the same building, two sides, connected but separate. That's an idea. Of course, anything we do, we have to give the proposal to the council. Furnishing the Nokachoke Lodge as a training center. We just had a Camp Master training there. 27 people were there. That was outstanding. That's what we need. 27 people attended that Camp Master training. We have other ideas. Kerry's working on the Nokachoke Village, McGee Village, sorry, rehab. That's going to be another facility a unit can rent in camp. We want bodies in camp. That's number one. Number two is profit from camp. We just had an outstanding Klondike Derby. Thank you to Paul DuPont. That's exactly what we need. When you were kids enjoying shooting sports, tomahawk throwing, come on. That's why kids want to go to camp. They want to throw tomahawks. They want to do stuff you can't do at home. That's just what we needed. That was outstanding. Well attended, and there'll be more kids there next year when they find out how much fun that was had there. But we still come down to, what about summer camp? All right? We need to address that. We have a strategy there too. So, remember these first points. Protecting the facility and staying viable through increased usage. That's the first step. And our idea is, a lot of people are going to say, if you're not talking about summer camp, I have no reason to be here. I get that. I feel that way. But this is the first step. To increase the use, protect the facility, expand the options. We have to do all those things, because failing to do those makes the property useless. You want to protect the property so 5 years, 10 years from now, nobody ever thinks of putting it up for sale. We have to make sure it's in good shape and that it's being used. We can't bring summer camp back to Cachalot unless we have Cachalot to bring it back to.
Amen.
That was a preposition nightmare right there. We have to have Cachalot so we can bring camp back to it. So what are we working with here? Remember, we have a single council budget. We're one council. We all need to remember that. It's very easy to not feel that way. I get you. I feel it. But it's not helpful. We lose Cachalot if the council goes bankrupt. If the council has money problems, if the council's membership sinks too low, guess what? Cachalot gets sold, Norse gets sold, they all get sold. Right? They got to keep the lights on. It's all about the money at some level because it has to be. Right? We've all made hard decisions because of money. We weren't happy with them. But you got to be able to pay the bills. Keep forgetting somebody changed the slide. So, I'm going to tell you right now, if nothing changes, it's highly unlikely we'd ever see summer camp back at Cachalot. because of those numbers we showed before. Now, girls may make a difference. I don't know how many girls are going to show up. But as far as I'm concerned, if they do, I'd be happy to have them on at Cachalot. They're kids who are there to learn at camp. I don't care who they are. They're people who can love Cachalot as much as anyone else. But remember, it's about the money. It's about the membership. This is why it's unlikely. Yagu has got to fill an entire subcamp. This is what they have to do. Remember, this is how it's surviving. They have to fill an entire subcamp and then top the other two off to capacity. And then they can think about Cachalot. That's why they have people recruiting for summer camp at Yagu right now in Florida and all the way in between. And we can argue and say, well, if they did that for Cachalot, maybe yep, we could, but that just ain't where we are. So, what can we do to close the gap? That's a lot of where we are. Let's talk about how we move forward. It's all about the money. So is there a way that we can help with the per camper cost? Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the cost that a troop or a parent pays to have a kid attend summer camp. The cost of servicing a summer camper. So, growth in our Alumni Association endowment can allow us to have an annual project, like we've done for years, an annual project of, I know it's a dirty word, but subsidizing that summer camper cost. So one of the tables of numbers we were given was this one. It's a little edited because there were some columns there that didn't really make sense. But we can see, for some reason, we have another meeting coming up. We haven't really got how these are calculated. But you can see, according to the council, it's more expensive to service a kid at Cachalot. Okay, maybe it is. So what can we do about that? Can we make that $274 $220? Can we make it cheaper to service a kid at Cachalot than anywhere else for summer camp? That's a big if. How will we fill that gap? Well, if you didn't know how our finances work in this association, we have an endowment, like a lot of nonprofits. We have an endowment that we don't touch. We only get the interest off of, and that's what we use to do everything we do. And our endowment right now is approximately $69,000. When you pay membership dues, it goes right into that endowment. No one can touch it. It's there to sustain this organization as long as we can sustain it, in perpetuity, hopefully. So what we get from that interest is approximately 5%. It depends on the year. It's approximately 5%, which gives us approximately $2,400 annually. Not a lot of money. But for what we do, for what we spend it on, it's not bad. And you might ask, well, what the heck does this organization spend its money on? Well, number one is projects. We have internally accounted a project fund. We've built the Wall of Fame. We've had people in this room make very generous donations here where we've purchased kayaks. We've purchased paddle boards. We've helped the council purchase some number of tents or some mattress covers. We've painted buildings. We've had members put up disc golf courses and any number of things. I hate to list them because I'm going to forget outhouses behind the winter cabins. We have given an annual staff scholarship or two, depending on the year. And of course, the cost of running the association, sending out your letters, your newsletters, your Cachalot letters, buying napkins and paper plates for an event like this. laying out the purchase price for the merchandise, the shirts, sometimes. So how much will it take? Here's the important part. We have to keep doing everything we currently do. And I'll try to go back to that. There's something we have to do this time of year that we haven't done yet. The worst thing we can do is change. We have to keep doing everything we do as an association. Now that costs us approximately $2,400 a year. And we could ease that camp debt by approximately $100,000 a year. Here's the hard part. We need $2 million. A lot of people right now said, what, are you crazy? How much of that sugar did you eat? Well, we have people in our association who don't have $2 million. But we have people who know people. There are people out there. Joseph Abood has a factory in New Bedford. Somebody has a connection in that factory. Somebody we know has a connection there. There's other people around I don't know. Maybe you don't know. We got to start beating the bushes on this. So we need a capital campaign, which we're also going to have our own internal capital campaign coming up. It's smaller. Fundraising. We've never been a big fundraising organization. We get our $2,400 a year. We can do what we've had to do. We can make things happen. But now there's a need. So we have fundraising, and we're going to go back to that donation seeking point. That's the one we want to focus on. You got to ask people. And it's a big arrow. You got to think big. Who do you know and who do they know? You know somebody. We just need the in. We need the connection. Doesn't have to be all at once. Could come in small buckets, and that's okay. We have several people in this room who've hiked the Appalachian Trail. They all started off with one step. So what we would like, because remember I'm only here to offer suggestions and invitations, what we would like people to do is continue to support scouting in Southeastern Mass. If scouting goes away in Southeastern Mass, guess what? That's the core of Cachalot. If it goes away here because you're so mad, that doesn't help. That certainly doesn't help. I get it. I understand why you feel that way, but it's not going to be helpful. If you have a unit, please take it to Cachalot on the weekends. Go out there. When you're feeling moved to action by all this, let's try to frame that into what I can do to help Cachalot not worry about hurting something else. Right? It doesn't help us, directly or indirectly, to say, attack Yagu as a camp or a reputation. It doesn't help us. One, because that was our cash cow. And two, it still doesn't help us. Let's try to take our energies when it comes to this and put it into how can we help Cachalot and scouting in this service area. I love that lots of people rallied to join this organization after the announcement of summer camp leaving Cachalot. However, here's a bad thing. We don't want to see a pulse of membership that slowly decreases back to status quo after people come to accept this. At no point am I suggesting we should ever accept anything. We're working to be positive to affect positive change, not to accept. So we need to maintain that. Please do not, and none of us here want you to, give up on scouting in Southeastern Mass. This is our base. Do not harass troops who are going to Yaku. I know some troops have chosen to take up the council's generous offer. They got to make the right choice for their units. You know, that's a big deal for some families to get that discount. If they don't go and those kids lose interest and their units get smaller, that doesn't help Cachalot. Let them go where they need to go. And hopefully they'll have an outstanding time wherever they go. No matter what camp it's at. Because we all know active troops are doing just fine. It's the troops who are less active who struggle to survive. Don't let your baseline slide. This is what I told you. There's a big difference between working positively as a team to improve the situation and accepting that this is okay. It ain't okay. I understand why it was done. I get it. But it's not okay. We are going to change this. So what we need help securing camp, maintaining the facilities, dealing with potential trespass issues. After this, please see Carrie. She's here. She's the property manager. We don't want anyone going out there doing any rogue projects. Please work constructively and coordinatedly with our ranger. So weekend programming. Kevin, I'm sure, would love to have some help with the Highland Games coming up. Please see him. We have some ideas of things we'd like to do. We have our service area chairman here. All of you know Manny. We have Eric. Sorry, Eric's been gone for a while. We have Joe. You're much more handsome, Joe. I hope Eric sees this on YouTube. See them. Tell them what you want to do. The council's planning some events out there. They're trying to work to improve the situation. Let's help them. Let's not be mad at them. Let's help them and encourage them. We want to raise money. You're going to hear from our first fundraising idea in a little bit from our chief fundraising officer. He just found out he got a title because he just got it right now. And think about who you can talk to. Think about who you know who has a matching donation program at work. Think about who you know who went to Cachalot 35 years ago or was a scout. And if you would like to be involved, if you haven't been involved with scouting and you would like to be involved with the Alumni Association, be involved with the service area. See Manny. Ask him, what could I do? I'm sure he has positions that need to be filled, some volunteer positions. Nothing's guaranteed. We could raise $5 million. We could raise $8 million, which we calculated would let us pretty much, we would take care of the entire annual Cachalot budget and every kid would go to summer camp for free. $8 million is not unrealistic. However, it's not our camp, not our program. We're here to help. So nothing is guaranteed except our resolve to do what we can to assist. Worst case scenario, we raise the money, we have more money to do stuff at camp. We can only make it as attractive as possible for the council to bring summer camp back. I think we can do it. I think $2 million is within our ability as a group, as 180 members, and I'm not asking anyone here to open their wallet to donate that to that sum. You can buy some merchandise. But we need to start bringing in a bigger pool. All right. Anyone have any questions? Mr. DuPont.
I sure do, because what you said is, even if we get 750 people to go to Cachalot for summer camp, are you saying that they will not open up Cachalot if Yahoo is not full?
I'm not saying that anything like that. I'm saying what we were told is Cachalot needs 750 campers for a season of at least 5 weeks to be sustainable. How that relates to when they will and won't open it?
We come up with 750, they're going to open camp.
You'd have to ask them that.
Every year sustainable.
Right. And the problem is right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Kerry, we don't have the infrastructure for 700. Do we have the infrastructure for 750 campers in a year? In a season?
Well,
how many campers a week, Dennis?
200.
150 a week over 5 weeks. Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Yep.
handle it.
All right.
But if we could,
We never have.
We never have. That's the issue.
if we could have done it before now, we would have.
Right.
So So, well, we were at 400,
Yep.
then it hatcheted us out, and now we're at 0. So
Yep.
now we gotta start from 0 instead of 400.
With membership where it was, we would have exhausted our available pool of scouts within a year or two.
But, there are 3 areas that we were supposed to draw from that kind of fell off. That we were not given the opportunity. I mean, I've been going to Cachalot for years, so I could see numbers weren't there. But if someone would have said something like, hey, we need to get numbers up, we could have gone after all the troops that go from Anawan that went to different camps besides Yagu. All the troops from Moby Dick that went to different camps besides Yagu and all the troops from Cape Cod and the island that went to different camps besides Yagu. Because evidently if we hit Yagu and their numbers drop, they still ain't going to help in Cachalot. So, but we weren't even given that opportunity.
I will tell you, I agree with you 100%. I'm not mad at Tim McCandless, who showed up, what, 8, 9, 10 months ago? I'm mad at everybody before that person who didn't say, hey, here's the writing on the wall. 8, 10, 12 years ago, we should have been told this is what the future holds. I agree with that 100%. I think this person came in from the West Coast, inherited this situation, and went, I got to do something about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying him in
Right.
general. I'm not saying him.
Oh, I know you're not.
But, so now all
And
we
starting from 0, you're right. That's harder than starting from 4. I agree with you.
So now, and I put it out on Facebook before, I'd step right up to the plate to help run a committee to be able to get out and do that. But we need to get it started, because exactly what you said is what I see. I see in 5 years, they're going to say we don't need Cachalot. We got Norse.
I think that's something to consider.
And so that's my fear,
Yep.
is that's what's going to happen.
Yep.
Now Cachalot is all prettied right up because the ranger and everybody that's gone there to help redo the buildings got it up. Now there's no reason why maybe we can't get at least 600 youth out to Cachalot, which is 200 more than what we had at the ending of the closing year. And then if we have 6, maybe they would open it and look, so you're 175 off. 150 off, I mean, but that's better than being 300 off.
Right.
I think if you're, all those ideas you have about bringing in youth and getting them there, I bet you Manny would love to talk to you about that and how you're willing to help with that.
I mean,
We already have.
we're down to 2
Great.
Boy Scout troops in the city of New Bedford.
Right?
And here's another new one. We just lost another district executive. We end up with more DEs in our area, brand spanking new, wet under the ears, that don't have the knowledge to even go forth until they learn while they're on the job.
Sure.
So we just lost another
Right.
DE. That ain't even DEs. What are they? Area directors now?
I'm going to give you, here's a situation I was in at work a few years ago. I had a superintendent and a superintendent and an assistant. They could care less about my program. And once I had that, once I understood that, I said, okay. I silently went back to my office and I said, I'm going to make this program unignorable. And I'm not getting all of it, but we have a $103 million expansion that I'm getting a significant part of now. Now, granted, I'm dealing with different leadership, but I think our way forward incorporates a lot of what you said. How do we make this service area unignorable? How do you make this the highlight of the council service areas? That's the only way. And you're right, as far as membership goes, there's not a lot we can do about that. We can do some, but that falls a lot on the professionals. I just got numbers updated from Mr. McCandless yesterday. Cub Scout numbers are still looking good. Boy Scout numbers are still struggling. But Cub Scouts are, that's our future. We have to get some Cub Scouts events here. We got to get those kids there. But you're hitting all the nails on the head, Paul. you're right. I don't think anything that we said disagrees with anything that you just said.
I have one more thing, and then anyone can say what they want. And then,
Thanks, Paul.
I got a whole bunch
Thanks,
I
Paul.
could say, but you talked about not having something there in the fall because of Mass Jam. There's a whole bunch of units that aren't going to go to Mass Jam.
Well,
So
if that's
we
true,
don't
maybe we
have
can think about
something-
that.
What's that?
If that's true, maybe we can
That's
think about
absolutely
that.
true.
Oh, good.
So if there's not going to be a troop going to Mass Jam, and we can't, we should have a program at camp.
I don't disagree with
Cachalot,
that.
that is.
I don't disagree with that. I was under the impression that most troops go to Mass Jam.
My troop's never been.
No,
You
I
can't have
never
a fire,
went.
so I can't bring my troop there. You can't have a fire at Mass Jam.
Uh-huh.
So how am I supposed to bring my troop there? They're not
So,
Why not?
because they cook on open fire. They don't cook on stoves.
Why can't you open fire in National?
Because that's the town law ordinance or whatever.
We've had open fire before.
I was told absolutely no fire at Mass Jam.
but what we need now is we need a string of events just like your Klondike Derby that were very well attended and wildly successful. What we can't have, this is what we can't have. We can't have an event that is that looks bad. We can't do it. Now, I don't think that means we should do nothing. I mean, that means we should do something, but it's got to be as good as your Klondike was.
Well, I got a whole list of ideas.
Well,
So who do I talk to? Manny? You better have your ears open.
start with Mandy. That's for all the crap you gave us on staff, Mandy. I finally got you back. It's only been 25 years.
Okay, so let me, when you're starting a new unit, you don't go out and recruit the kids, right? First, you recruit the adults. Okay, one of our biggest problems right now in this area, we have too many adults to welcome away from the program. We don't have enough adults, okay, to support a proper unit. Okay, ask Kevin Thompson, no kilt, about the program. He's being paid by the council to help run an inner city unit because there are not enough adults willing to do the program. So until the adults can get off their ass, okay, and start supporting the program the way they need to, you're never going to build up a good program. Okay, because that's how you get boys and girls. You have a great program, they come to your unit. PAC 74, perfect example. They're pushing 50 kids because they have a lot of adults involved running a great program. Your unit's still involved? One of the 2 units left in the veteran is still strong because of your adult support. Okay? There are a lot of units out there that are not recruiting any kids because they're running a crappy program because they don't have enough adults involved. Get the adults involved, okay? Develop a good program, and then your kids will come.
And that's what if you want to be involved, see Manny. You know, I'll deny if you say this. I said this to anyone outside of this room. I'll deny I said it. We need more Paul DuPonts. That's what we need. Smile now, because I'll never say it again.
Well, I got lots to say.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Tavaz.
You know, picking up on some of this stuff, one, we know that larger units are more successful. I like to think, correlated with what Manny's been saying, we have the 3 A's of scouting to make it to success in the troop. Not the driving AAA, but the scouting AAA. You need adults, advancement, and adventure, and you'll hold the kids. It's better to hold the kids that you've got than to keep continually recruit and lose, recruit and lose.
But we need the adults too. We need the adults first.
Well,
Mr. Caesar, what do you got?
I haven't finished with it.
Sorry.
One thing that troops need, not all troops, not all troops, but many troops, they have new people or not experienced enough. They have problems, they have a weak committee, they don't know what to do. A commissioner should be helping with that. A commissioner is a representative between, a connection between the unit and the council of the district, or the service center. Doesn't mean they have all the answers, but if they detect problems, they point them out and try to solve them. If they're asked about a problem that the troopers have, they help solve it. If they can't solve it, they will know where to go to get someone else to come in to solve it, or help solve it. And that's what the commissioner does. A unit commissioner usually serves two, occasionally 3 units, packs of venture cruisers, telephones. We don't have that happening.
So if anyone who's interested in that position, talk to Manny, talk to Ed Tavares about what it's about.
When was the last time a commissioner visited your town? Just think about it.
Mr. Caesar.
We get some of these old timers here, and some of you newer old timers. You're here. It means you're interested. You know something about scouting. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to be a contact in between to keep us alive.
All right, Mr. Caesar.
Yes, sir. We could dissect the Boy Scouts of America 9 ways to Sunday and stay here until 1800 hours. Your comments were well taken from my point of view in that our mission here is to protect Cachalot. And the best way that I see, and I think you've articulated that point very, very well,
Thank you.
is to make Cachalot a beehive of scout activity, starting right now.
Yep.
Money, manpower, management, keep the beehive at Cachalot. All this other stuff may come. If we have an opportunity to start a brand new scout group somewhere with the O&E committee, blah, 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 we can point to Camp Cachalot, get those kids camping right away, get more activity at Cachalot. I can't bang a nail, I can't bang, I'm not good at beavers, but you send me to a place and give me a room full of people and I'll get you some money.
All right.
This is the first year that I have not been on the road for the council on FOS. I just got an email from someone on the finance committee asking me to help out. I can't go out a lot of nights anymore. However, I'm gonna take a couple of assignments because what you said, and you articulated it very, very well. If we help the council, we help Cachalot. Because without the council, we can't have Cachalot.
That's the truth.
Cachalot, because the council, Camp Galgoo has some advantages that we don't have. The only scout property that Narragansett Council owns at this time is Camp Cachalot.
And
All
Norse.
the other properties, all the other properties that Camp Galgoo
Yep.
and the others, Kel Grant, whatever they are owned by the Rhode Island Boy Scouts. And for many, many years, when I was on the staff there, when they fell short of money, it was the Rhode Island Boy Scouts that bailed them. I don't know if that's still the case anymore. I haven't been that close to them. As far as professional staff goes, you have in this room, you've got 3 former professionals just sitting right in here right now. So if we've lost a district scout executive, that's no big deal. There are some of us that know what to do. Call us.
Yep.
But again, I don't want to keep beating the dead horse. We need to keep Camp Cachalot a beehive of scout activity. And whatever that takes, that's what we must do as an alumni association. Thank you.
Right. All right. Thank you, Archie.
As all this is going on and we're starting from zero now, has the alumni thought about what to do in regards of a census to figure out if we could get that number? Because we have 0 kids going to camp, and we know that because it's closed. But how do we know when we're close? Do we just go over general appearance of how many kids?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yeah.
Repeat the question.
How would we know what the level of interest is in future attendance of summer camp at Cachalot?
I think as the Alumni Association, we need to put out a census and go, how many people are willing to go back to camp and are devoted to going back to camp?
Let me just repeat it because you're kind of around the corner. So,
I'm going to talk louder.
I know you can. Archie's question is, or comment is, eventually we need to design some way to measure the interest in attending summer camp at Cachalot in the future. Say for 2019, hey, how many units are interested? Now, we all know, well, some of us know the hard part with that is, if you run a summer camp program, a unit registers, and they say, yeah, I'm bringing 20 kids, and then they show up that day with 15 kids or 10 kids.
Well, that way you
but at least maybe at some point we have to measure it to the best of our
If
ability.
you have a census that is liberal of 1 or 200 over, then that'll kind of
Yeah.
give that. But I also had a second point for that, and I think that this really needs to happen down at camp. Sidebar that is, maybe we should have like a dad camping trip.
Absolutely.
Okay, because most of the leaders today are the dads of these kids. They get roped into it. They have no idea what they're doing. And I've been to Scoutmaster training in the past 20 years. It's horrible. And the ones that they have, it's a pitch to go to another camp.
Yeah, I think that's an outstanding idea that we could develop as a weekend activity of run our own sort of new leaders, come out and have a weekend camping trip as a new leader. And maybe we act as sort of the adult unit staff for some of these parents who get roped in as leaders who have never been leaders before. What you do on Friday night, setting up your campsite. We might get a whole lot of really new leaders now that girls will be moving into the program. So there's a whole bunch of people, not even as youth, but as adults who may have never been involved.
Man, get your pad out, because that's a great idea.
I think that's an outstanding idea. Yeah.
I would be willing to head that up.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
When everything first started, I was as angry, you could hear me as loud as Paul. And I get your numbers, I get everything. Something needs to be set up for the kids for this summer. And you could get your census, a semi-small census. I can name troops that outright refuse to go to Yagoo, Cachalot, or camp. And I'm not being mean to the council at all. But I know I watched in a lot of the meetings that I went to, a lot of really disappointed kids. My kid asked, why the heck should he eagle out? Why should he keep on going with scouts? And he goes, find me a way to get a weekend at camp this summer. And I understand everything you're planning. Sorry, Carrie, I'm not trying to put more on your shoulders or anything. But there's nothing for this summer for the kids, and you could do it after other camps were closed in August to get like a census from troops as to, hey, would you come back to camp?
Well, supposedly there is going to be the luau weekend. We are meeting with Mr. McCandless 2 weeks. Next week, 2 weeks. I have to look at the calendar.
Yeah.
We're meeting with him to discuss some questions that were too fresh to have answers to months ago. As I know you were at the meeting at the zoo, there was a lot of, well, we're not sure that yet because this really just dropped on us too. So now we're going to say, okay, well, that's cool. It's been a few months now. There's really no excuse why you don't have answers to these questions now.
Yeah.
And please don't get me wrong. This isn't like a hugs and kisses kind of thing. No, I'm still mad. There were people who were, you're derelict of duties. You are not good at doing your job. Now, it might not be the people who are in those chairs today, but this business was not managed well. Absolutely. So we need to ask some very difficult questions. The take-home point, though, is not absolve anyone of sins, but let's focus on how do we move forward. Now, I agree, and don't take any of that as you should go to Yagoo and be not. No, you go where you feel is best for you, your scouts, your units. If someone decides to go to Yagoo, let them go. I mean, you can't knock what was built at Yagoo over the decades either. They did an awesome job there. Can't take that away from them. And if some troops want to go there, let them go there. If other troops refuse to go there, that's their decision too. Yes, sir.
I think that one big focus of this discussion should be the fact that if we're looking at how to help Cachalot and how to help Narragansett as a whole, how might we do that? And we have to look at the overarching problem, and that's definitely, as anyone could see, that there's a really small amount of boys coming into the program, boys and girls now. And I think that anyone who has anything to do with helping a camp or helping a council should be working on advertisement for scouting, because how might we expect scouting to be spread right now? We're doing all of these amazing things, but people aren't seeing it enough. It's not in their face enough, because what we hope is that the boys experience these really amazing events and they go and they tell their friends about it and things of that nature. But that's only a hope. How are we supposed to expect our scouts to be necessarily sociable with their friends? How do we know that they're not just going to talk about scouting activities to their scouting friends? So we need to make sure that we create some kind of online presence, maybe one that's a little more appealing or attractive than what we currently have. And kinds of advertisements to be able to get in people's faces, adults and youth alike, to understand what scouting really is, not just by word of mouth through young kids, but to get, you know, our advertisement correctly and show them what we really are.
I think you make me think of 3 points and you remind me of a fourth. So number one is, I was a little put off when this originally happened because we kept hearing about scouting. I go, hey, that's your job. That's what you get paid for. I'm here for one thing. I'm here for this. As my blood came off of a boil over the weeks, I realized, all right, you can't really separate it that much, right? It's a scout camp. If this became part of the state park, it would be less magical, right? That's why we're here. We don't. Does anyone here belong to Friends of Miles Standish? No. You do, and I do love Miles Standish. Don't get me wrong, but you're right. Those two things they're linked, and that's what I think we eventually came to. The thing you remind me of is that even friends of mine were kind of like, I don't know about this girl thing. I don't agree with it. We could debate it and the benefits and the drawbacks of it, but that's a future of scouting. That's a future of scouting. As far as I'm concerned, you want to help Cachalot, you welcome any of these girls who want to come in and be part of this program. Period. Absolutely. Because in the end, it doesn't matter. And I think the other thing is, I think we could use you to help with that. Because you know how to talk to a 12-year-old better than I do.
Well, yeah,
I mean, we were both 12 years old, but it happened not so long ago for you. So I'm challenging you to get your uncle to pick you up and have you be part of our board.
From a youth perspective, I can just throw out a couple of ideas to start being milled around. I know everyone has to at least know a little bit about YouTube, and it's where a lot of our 12-year-olds currently are.
Who's two?
I agree with you 100% on that.
And it would definitely help if we could get that.
Jack, you and I need to sit down for a much larger conversation.
Yeah. No, that's why I'm saying, just for any of you that do know, get the idea milling around in your head of an advertisement, of even a TV commercial.
And I think, take what you just said, and if you want kids to talk about this with non-scouting kids, we need more stuff. And I'm going to keep picking on this one thing: tomahawk throwing at the Klondike Derby. You want kids to talk about it, do cool stuff. Tomahawk throwing was pretty damn cool. Yes, sir.
Just to touch on Jack's point, I spoke to Yoni about this in last summer. I think a huge part too, I was guilty of that as a parent. My boy came to me, I want to join Boy Scouts. My first answer, hell no.
Really?
I knew nothing about it, really. But I was just against it. It was bad thoughts in my mind, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
The information needs to get out there to the parents. How, I don't know. But it went from, I finally let him go, but I went with him. Right, Mr. B? And I watched everything until I was comfortable. Somehow I got roped in by Mr. D.
Oh, yeah. Somehow. We all know how.
But it changed my whole perspective, and I think a lot of parents, because I've spoken to a few parents that felt the same way I did. Yep. And I've tried to convince them of,
I talk to kids now in my program. The program I teach is for kids who supposedly want to be outdoor professionals. And I say, hey, you want to, we cover a course of 10 weeks. You want to learn more about this and practice it, you need to go join a venture crew. A lot of my students are girls. And they say, what's that? I tell them, oh, my parents will let me join Scouts because they're bigots, they're racist, they're homophobic. And I say, well, you're right, but not anymore. And they go, yeah, I tried that. So I think in time, as that fades and they realize what the organization has become, there may be more people who are interested. But I'd like to, before we get too off topic, to bring up Mr. Dave Goldrick with our brandy new, with really his brandy new, I'm going to give him the credit for it, fundraising idea. and then we'll definitely be here for a while longer where we can talk and get people connecting where we can hopefully affect some positive change. And I'm not running away, and I don't think any of us are running away. Are you ready, Mr. Goldrick?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this long?
It can be. You want it to be?
Yeah, my voice is kind of...
Dave's gonna wander around, right?
Thanks. No, not too far. Sorry I couldn't make the luncheon. Unfortunately, Saturdays is the only day in my week that I have to pretend like I'm working. So that's why I only got here at 1 o'clock. Anyway, I came to the meeting the other couple of months ago after I missed the first meeting I was going to go to because I couldn't read the fine print on Facebook and thought it was the 27th instead of the 21st. But anyway, that's beside the point. They were talking about raising a lot of money, and I think they're right. I think that's what we have to do. But when they started talking about 2 million, 8 million, a lot of money, I couldn't comprehend that and wrap my head around that. But I did give it a thought about a few things. And one of them is, I can't afford a whole lot. I'm semi-retired, I'm on a fixed income, but I do know there's some things that I can do. I do know that I can collect 55 cents a day and give to the Alumni Association. 55 cents a day. Or I could give $10, $15, $16 and 70 cents a month to the Alumni Association. If I did it, and 199 of my closest friends did that, we could raise in 1 year with pocket change $40,000. That's all it would take. 55 cents a day will buy you half a cup of small coffee at the Honeydew down the road here. I am willing to make that contribution. I am willing to go to troop meetings and talk to families about this. We need to raise money before our council is going to be serious about us. So that's what I'm proposing. And when you do that, by the way, that 55 cents a day comes to a little over $200 in a year. And if you pledge yourself to doing that, since we're not going to have a summer camp staff this year, we're going to make you a summer camp staff member by how much you pledge. If you pledge to us $200, we'll make you a camp staff member. If you do $300, we're going to make you an area director, waterfront director, scoutcraft director, nature director, whoever you'd like to be. For $400, you get to be the camp director, which I can tell you that's not really a good deal. But the most important one is if you give us $500 in a year, I will make you a kitchen staff crew member. Only because if you really don't understand how camp works, you have to understand that the kitchen crew are the hardest working group in the entire camp. I want to do this fundraising. I want to get involved with it. We're talking about getting pledge cards ready for the homecoming right at camp. We're going to kick off then. We're going to have staff hats for those that wish to join us. And once you sign up, we're going to give you the hat, and we're going to count on you to pay it off during that year, simply because we're hoping you'd be too embarrassed to wear the hat if you didn't pay. And the reason I really want to do this Same reason all of you are here. I want to get a chance to go back to Cachalot with my 3 sons, go with Mr. DuPont's troop, and spend time washing dishes in the dish room. That's what I want. I want to see those traditions continue to live and to keep growing. I want people to know what a toggle rope is and understand where that comes from. And I want summer brought back to Cachalot. Thanks. By the way, I noticed there was a donation jar over there. You can have all this change.
How do we buy a sponsorship hat?
All you're going to have to do is pledge either $2, $3, $4, or $500, and we're going to get you a camp staff hat for that year. And every year you do it, we'll give you a New Year's hat to go with it. If you want, when we're doing area camporees or other events at camp that have a campfire, we want you to come up stage and join us as the staff to sing the camp song, to sing the welcome song, and even to march up the dining hall with us. And if you were never on the staff before, you can put that on your resume. You were a staff member. And if you were there for 2 years and worked at the staff kitchen or the waterfront, and you make this donation, then you can count 3 years on your resume for that. It's that important. I think that those are the kind of things that we can do to make the fundraising not only fun, but enjoyable as we go along. And again, you know, I'm an ex-camp director, you know. I'm only good at counting paper clips and pencils. So I like to keep it simple. So 55 cents a day is a pretty simple figure to keep in your mind. If you collect that or willing to pledge that for a year, that's $200. And if we get 200 people, that's $4,000. I mean, $40,000. And, let's see, hold on here a second. I'm just looking at this. Oh, I wrote it down here somewhere. Ah, here it is. If we have, I thought the number for the endowment was about $68,000. So if we raise $40,000, we're going to have $108,000 next year, right? And the year after, if we do that again, that's $148,000. By the 3rd year, it's $188,000 in that endowment fund. And by the 4th year, it's $228,000 in the endowment fund. That's the kind of money we're going to need for our council to realize we're serious. So yes, come homecoming, I'm going to be asking each and every one of you to dig deep, find your pocket change, save it, make a pledge, become a staff member. And if you've got family or troop nights that I can come to talk with your parents, I'd be glad to do that and come right along and give them the same sales pitch and see what kind of donations that we can raise. Because this is the only way we're going to be able to do it. We're not going to find too many people out there going to give us $2 million. We might, but we have to also show an effort. We have to. All of us, we need to contribute and open our wallets. I know we've all given a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that sand out of Cachalot for many, many, many years. And now we're going to have to give money too. A lot more than what we may have been giving in the past. And it's to grow the endowment fund to bring summer back to camp. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What you said about pledging donations and stuff, it reminds me of a thing called Patreon. Do you know what that is?
No clue.
It's a website where you can pledge donations, make singular donations, maybe on the alumni's Facebook. You could put a link to that. It would give more opportunity to donate.
I think the person you need to talk to is Mr. Dennis back there.
I'm familiar with Patreon.
He's the person to talk to, okay? Because I'm older than dirt, so, you know, I'm not really familiar with all those terms and things. Any other questions? Michael.
Mr. Goddard.
How are you? Anyway, that's all I had. I wish you all the best. You will be seeing more of me. Please, if you've got a troop meeting I can come to, a court of honor, I'd be glad to talk to them too. I'll even wear my uniform. Thank you.